Sports Talk with me and my good pal, Storm over here. Hello, guys who are viewing. By the way,
What's up?
This is our first run at trying to do a little bit of video during our podcast so you guys can watch us as well as listen to us. So if you're listening on the podcast and you want to kind of see what we look and what our setup's like, check us out on YouTube. Be sure to drop a link in the description so you guys can check us out there. Anyway, don't want to talk too much to start off because, as always, we got a ton to hit this week. Lots of NFL, a little bit of college football and the new playoff rankings, a bit of NBA. But we are going to start off with what happened on Monday Night Football, where the Seattle Seahawks took down the San Francisco 49ers, handing them their first loss of the season. Seattle won the game 27-24 on a last-second kick in overtime after some zany stuff went down. There were red zone interceptions by Russell Wilson, shanked field goals by kickers who were sitting on their couch about a week ago. It was madness. It was wild. I am glad that I stayed up till midnight to watch it. Storm, I know, living that dad life, you weren't quite able to make it there, but I'm sure you saw the highlights.
Halftime, man.
That's all right, man. It was all over the news on Tuesday morning anyway, so I'm sure you kind of got filled in on it.
Oh, yeah.
But I kind of want to know what your reaction to the outcome was. Do your thoughts about San Fran or Seattle change? What are your thoughts or takeaways from this one?
So my first note I have is actually what you said. Missed field goals, blown fourth downs, awkward turnovers that never happened from Russell Wilson. Pressure finally on Jimmy G. We had finally got to see who he was as a quarterback. He really hasn't been put in that kind of situation yet this year. And I'll tell you what, I'm coming out feeling almost the same as I did going in, except I think the edge is going to go to Seattle just a little bit. Clowney finally decided to have himself a day. That's his best game so far as a Seahawk. That whole D-line played pretty well. They were in Garoppolo's face plenty of times. 2 fumbles, I think it was. One was the Clowney touchdown, and then another interception. So, yeah, to me, I was just very impressed with Seattle overall. You know what? San Fran is still a top 2 team. I think when you look at these 2 teams right now, that not only was the best game so far this year, but it's definitely the best 2 NFC teams right now. And you could see them potentially in an NFC championship game, depending on how seedings go, of course. But
yeah, I was really impressed with both teams for different reasons, but I also had some concerns grow for both teams as well. So I'm going to kind of start from the San Francisco side. We'll start with the positive. That defense is so legit, man. Like, just watching them, not even looking at the numbers or the box score afterwards, just watching them, they look like they fly around that field so freaking fast and just hit harder than other teams. Like, every single play, they're not shoving people out of bounds. Right. That coach, what the heck's his name? Starts with an S. We'll figure it out. 2 minutes into the show and we're already forgetting stuff. Anyway, whatever he's doing to coach those guys up and get them ready to play football on Sundays, or in this case Monday, it's working because they come to play on every single down, every single snap. So impressed. Cannot overestimate or overstate how good that unit is playing.
And they looked like they didn't even miss a beat after losing Quan Alexander, which is damn impressive because he's a stud there, middle linebacker. So.
Yeah, they just look fantastic. Now, on the negative side, this game kind of showed the concerns that both you and I had with Jimmy Garoppolo. He has the talent, but whether or not he has the consistency or the what's the word I'm looking for? He turns the ball over too much. He needs to be smarter with the football. Like, he had a couple throws in the fourth quarter that should have been interceptions and really sealed the game and got bailed out. But he just showed inconsistency throughout the game that, to me, does not instill confidence that he can lead them to a Super Bowl. Now, what I will say is that he was without George Kittle and he was without Emmanuel Sanders very early on in the game. So I can't invest too much stock into what I saw. But I do still have concerns about him because I don't think he's proven that he can be the reason his team wins against a really solid opponent. On the Seattle side, just a couple points. Number one, Russell Wilson is incredible. I know he had that really boneheaded interception in overtime that probably should have lost them the game. But it's amazing how he just makes magic happen on the field with his legs and his arm. Like, he was under a lot of pressure on Monday night. And whether it was the scrambles or the improvisational plays, he's just fantastic. I still think he's a front runner for MVP, even though he had a subpar night against the Niners, which every quarterback is.
And we'll see how he does now going forward. I think Tyler Lockett's going to miss some time as well going forward. So you got Josh Gordon and DK Metcalf. So
and I still don't have a ton of faith in either of them right now. They're kind of one-trick ponies.
Metcalf had that terrible fumble there on the 1 yard line too. So
But Russell Wilson, fantastic. He is the reason that this team is considered a Super Bowl contender right now, hands down. And then kind of to repeat the point you made, Jadeveon Clowney looked incredible. I haven't seen that kind of performance from Clowney I don't know when the last time. It definitely haven't seen it in Seattle yet.
No.
And you did not see it often in Houston. But if this guy can step on the field and ball out like that, this defense will be in good hands. Like, he had a sack, forced fumble, and a touchdown. And that doesn't even include how much impact he had on pressuring the quarterback. Now, I do have concerns with the rest of their defense.
For sure.
They kind of stepped up a little bit more than they usually do against the run this week. And I think part of that was because they didn't really respect Jimmy G too much. But I still do have concerns about this defense. And then as well on the offense, just because they don't have any superstar skill position players. But I come out of this game thinking my perspective has increased more for Seattle. Like, I have a little bit more faith in them, but with San Fran, it's kind of stayed pat. They're still an excellent team with a question mark at quarterback.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And, the good thing about if that if that D-line picks it up the way they did against San Fran, Seattle's D-line, that takes a lot of pressure off that horrendous secondary. The secondary hasn't been so good. If they're at the quarterback's feet in second and a half, 2 seconds, that's going to make him uncomfortable. It's going to make him throw the ball quicker. It's going to make quarterbacks their defensive backs not have to cover as long. So that'll put them in a better spot too, which you kind of hope happens a little bit there if you're a Seattle fan.
Absolutely. And really, both these teams are just a blast to watch. San Francisco, because they're so complete and they give you this smash mouth style of football. And Seattle, because they have a couple of guys who can make big plays. And it seems like because they aren't super well-rounded, they're in a close game every single weekend, and you get to see some heroics from Russell Wilson. So I agree with you. I think both of these teams are on track to make a pretty deep playoff run. But with some of these injuries, we'll see exactly how much that impacts the team's fortunes moving forward.
And you know what's fun? These two play each other the last week of the season. They play each other week 17. So that's going to be a good one. Yeah, absolutely.
Or maybe the Rams will go on a run. Both teams will be who knows?
But maybe if they tied the game, if they played for the tie at the end of the
Oh, yeah. So real quick before we move on, Grant, friend of the podcast, fan of the podcast, contributes a lot on social media. How's it going, Grant? Grant's a big Niners fan, and he asked us to answer whether or not we think that the 49ers should have played for a tie at the end of the game. Now, there was about just under 2 minutes, I believe, left in overtime. San Francisco had the ball, passed the ball 3 straight times, didn't get the first down, punted it back away to Seattle. So do you think it would have been smart for them to go to a tie or to play for a tie, particularly against an in-division rival?
Yeah, I don't think coaches really look into it that much when they're coaching the game. They're coaching to win the game. They're not coaching a tie. So I'm okay with what happened. I wish they could have tried to establish the run a little bit, try to kill some clock, maybe get some yardage to make a third down and, third down 10 instead of like a third down and 2 or 1 or something. But yeah, I'm okay with not going for a tie. I'm going for the win no matter what.
Yeah, I don't love 3 straight passes when Jimmy G hasn't looked great and your run game is the key to your offense. However, I agree with you. You don't play for no damn tie. Come on, it's the NFL, man.
You play to win the game.
All right, Herm, we got to move on now. Don't get too fired up. All right, so thank you, Grant, again for asking that question. Anyway, the game that happened just before that on Sunday night was the Minnesota Vikings traveling to Jerry World in Dallas, Texas, and taking down the Cowboys.
No cat this game.
No luck for the Cowboys this game. They lose 28-24. Even in a game where Dak Prescott went for almost 400 yards and had 3 touchdowns. So, Storm, what's your reaction to this Cowboys loss?
Yeah, I was listening to a radio show or a podcast on Friday at work, and they mentioned something I thought was pretty crazy. They're like, whatever quarterback has the better stats is going to wind up losing this game. And my God, were they right. Dak Prescott just threw just under 400 yards. He had two touchdowns, 3 touchdowns.
3 touchdowns and 1 interception.
Yeah, so, he played horrendous. Kirk Cousins, whatever. He did what he has done.
Yep, game manager.
But both of these teams are, if they're running the ball well, they're going to win the game. And that was the difference. Dalvin Cook had a great game. Zeke, not so much. And, Minnesota wound up on top. But you know what? I think what bothers me the most is that final punt at the end of the game when Tavon Austin had the whole left side of the field to run. Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
The whole left side of the field. And I don't know if it was Jason Garrett or the special teams coach or someone tell him to do a fair catch. Why? Why would you do that?
No, I'm going to put that on Tavon, man. I saw him in L.A. and St. Louis for long enough. This dude doesn't know what he's doing.
I could have taken that up the left side.
All right, let's not get ahead of ourselves, Storm. I know you're passionate about this, but...
Listen, Dallas hasn't beaten a good team yet. They haven't beaten a team over 500 yet. The Eagles weren't over 500 at the time. They were playing crappy football as well. So, like, yeah, I don't know what to say about Dallas. They're extremely inconsistent. I mean, they're not the powerhouse people thought. And, you know, Dak Prescott throws 400 yards and they lose. I wouldn't expect to see that, but I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm going to start from the Minnesota perspective, and I think what we saw was what we all basically knew. Minnesota has such a complete roster, and they just have a quarterback that nobody really has faith in. And you kind of saw that in this game right here. They really limited what they needed him to do. A lot of checkdowns, throwing it underneath a lot, really relying on that run game. He had good protection. So on the offense, the game script went perfectly for Minnesota. And
with no Thielen, too.
Exactly, with no Thielen. So if they can keep up this type of play on the offensive side, they're going to have no problems really making some noise in the playoffs. And then that defense, it's not easy to go up against the Dallas Cowboys and stop Ezekiel Elliott like the Minnesota Vikings were able to. It's not an easy task with the offensive line that Dallas has. And Minnesota did that, and they made light work of it. Like, I don't know. It's tough when you're not seeing, like, the rear view shot and seeing the holes open up. But Zeke Elliott just did not look like the Zeke that we've come to know over the past 3 seasons. So I give kudos to Minnesota there. Really excellent team. And Kirk Cousins, believe it or not, did not shit the bed in a primetime game. Like,
It's a miracle.
He didn't play great. Like, he only had 220 yards, but he had 2 touchdowns, no turnovers.
But that's how they're winning the game.
Exactly, and that's how Minnesota needs to win games.
And that's what Dallas really needs to do.
Exactly. That brings me to Dallas. Dallas, to me, is almost identical to Minnesota in how they're going to win. You're going to ride the run. You're going to rely on some elite defensive players and plays that they could make. And you're going to ask the quarterback to make a few select plays in a few select spots during the game. Now, I do have more faith in Dak, and we saw during this game why. He's got the ability to kind of take over a game. But the 2 things that really concern me about Dallas in this game, one, we've definitely talked about before. They come out so slow, dude. They come out again 14-0. If you're able to either get some offense or get some stops early on, you win this game. Like, they cannot play catch up like that. They need to be able to establish the run, like we just said, and keep games close. And number 2, even though I do feel they got to establish a run, at a point you have to realize that it's not working. I feel like midway through the 3rd quarter, it was run first down, run second down, make Dak convert a 3rd down conversion. And he was for the most part, but they just never gave up on that initial game plan. And I blame both Garrett and Kellen Moore there. You have to do something to really switch things up and realize that your quarterback is rolling, ride the hot hand. Yeah, because although I don't love Dak as a quarterback, he has the ability to do that from time to time, man.
And he's been playing pretty well. I've been impressed with his play all year, but the fact that they can't beat a good team, or even when the game has to be on his shoulders, somehow they come up short.
It just doesn't make any sense because that roster looks so good. And, hold on. I would just like to clarify. You said they can't beat a good team. So, just want to clarify, the Eagles aren't a good team.
They weren't a good time then.
They weren't at the time. There's the loophole. They weren't that weak.
But I mean, you look. The defense really hasn't even played particularly well. I mean, you look at that loss to the Jets. You look at how many points the Dolphins put up in the first half. I mean, I know they went and kicked the crap out of them later on, but the defense still hasn't been that impressive. Yeah. For the players that they have, you have DeMarcus Lawrence, you have Byron Jones, you have, Van Der Esch has been out, but Jalen Smith, I just don't understand what's going on here. I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if
it has to be because they got the talent, right?
Yeah.
And at some point, you got to look at the head coach who's been there, the better part of a decade now.
He needs to go. I've been saying this forever. He needs to go.
I've been saying it as well, but that seat is especially hot after that loss this past weekend. Another team that struggled was the Kansas City Chiefs.
Is Andy Reid's seat hot?
I don't know if Andy Reid's seat is hot, but he's got to figure out how to find a defensive coordinator that can work some shit out, man. Like, that defense just continues to be bad. It's been terrible I know at least the last year and a half. I don't really know how good it was 2.5 years ago, but I can't imagine it was elite back then either. Christ.
Yeah, you think with the new defensive coordinator in Spagnuolo, you think these players would start to buy in a little bit towards this point in the season, and that's kind of what we thought last weekend when we were talking about how good they were because they shut Dalvin Cook down last week.
Yeah, I really thought that this defense under Steve Spagnuolo, who has a decent track record coaching defenses in this league, would get better. However, this weekend they suffer a 35-32 loss against the Ryan Tannehill-led Tennessee Titans. And I mean, can the Kansas City Chiefs win a Super Bowl with this defense?
I still think they could win a Super Bowl. I don't know if they will. The AFC is a complete toss-up right now, but I don't want to completely put it all on the defense this game. When you had a chance to put the game out of reach with that field goal, you botched the snap, and then you don't even try to put it down for the kicker to kick. You just throw it out of bounds, basically, and then that's when the Titans went down the field. They scored. You get the ball back. Mahomes gets you in the field goal position, and then you have one blocked. Like, come on, that's definitely – I mean, don't get me wrong. Defense played their hand, but the special teams also played a role in that loss for them too. So whether they can win a Super Bowl or not, I'm not taking all my eggs out of that basket yet, so I still think they can win.
There's no way they can make a Super Bowl run with this defense, man. They're going to have to win 3 straight games at this point. Probably, well, I guess the first one be at home, but
yeah, they have the West.
Yeah, and I don't even know, they might not even have wild card weekend off at this point. So they'll play 1 at home, 2 on the road, and then so they're going to have to win 4 straight games against offenses that are a hell of a lot better than Ryan Tannehill and the Tennessee Titans. There's no way. How, like, even without those field goals, I give it to you. They had a bad special teams day, and they probably would have won this game. But they still would have given up 35 points to the freaking Titans, man. They're going to be playing Baltimore, the #1 offense in the league. Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. If Oakland sneaks in, they can put up points. Like, you have to rely on Patrick Mahomes to have 4 straight, like, magnificent virtuoso games to have a shot of making it. There's no way that you can string together that run if the defense is playing this bad. And really, it's against the run. Like, there are going to be teams that are better at clock management and play a little bit better defense and are just able to run the ball down the Chiefs' throats and keep a 10-point lead. Like, it sucks because I really believed in Andy Reid this year, and obviously he's doing his part with the offense.
That offense is still,
yeah, that offense is elite, and they can win some games, and I'm not ruling out that they can win a couple playoff games, maybe even get to Super Bowl, but the likelihood that they win 4 straight games with this defense, to me, it just doesn't seem plausible.
I mean, yeah, for sure, but it's still, what week are we at?
Going into week 11, do you see this defense getting better than it is today?
They lost somebody,
What's going to change?
Yeah, I mean, but I don't. It's like week to week with them because, like I just said last week, they only held Cook to 70-some yards. I mean, and then this week, Derrick Henry, is it the type of running back they play? Like, I don't know what it is that would change it from. Like really good 2 weeks in a row.
Well, and that's my point. That's my point.
They put Matt Moore in there?
They can put up one good week on defense, but are they going to do it 4 times in a row?
They don't have to.
Yeah, they do. They do. Because Patrick Mahomes cannot score 40 consistently all through the play. There's no way against the better defense. Because Tennessee's a middle-of-the-pack defense. They play that New England defense. You think he's putting up 35 points?
New England defense that just got shredded.
It's just, by the #1 offense in the league, who Kansas City might also have to play.
I mean, we're saying New England's so highly touted, but yet they haven't played defense against a good offense, and once they did, they were fools. They looked like fools. They looked like they were 5 steps behind a good offense. So what happens when they go and play these other good offenses, like a Patrick Mahomes-led offense? Which do they play each other? They do play each other in 2 weeks, so we find out.
We're digressing a little bit, but the Patriots' strength are their defensive backs.
Yeah.
What's Baltimore's strength? Running the football. So, of course, Baltimore's scheme was able to attack New England's weaknesses. What's Kansas City's strength? Passing the ball. They're not a great running team.
That's why Andy Reid sat Shady this week, so he can have him for games like that to run the ball.
So Shady can come in, he can fumble, and he can bench him after 3 touches in like he did 2 weeks ago. It's just, I have so much faith in the offense, but there's no way. No way.
I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens.
We will. This might have to turn into a beer bet once we haven't done one of those in a while. We'll have to think about some.
We'll do it for the Kansas City New England game.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
We'll do
that's a good idea. We'll get there. All right, got to settle down. Let's move away from the NFL, take a little breather, and talk about that thriller of a game on Saturday.
A lot of good football this weekend.
Oh my God, so much good football, man. You can tell we're getting hyped up over here. Maybe it's because we got the cameras on us. I don't know what it is.
I'm about halfway down my beer, so that's why.
Oh man, I got to catch up. All right, well, I'll let you start this topic then. So LSU obviously beat Alabama this weekend in Tuscaloosa. That offense just went off. And when they ended up, it was a 46?
46-41, something
Yeah,
like
so
that.
I don't have the score written down here, but both teams were in the – yeah, I think 46-41 sounds right. But so obviously it changed the rankings, which we'll get into a little bit. But first, I just want to know your reaction to how this game went down. Obviously, we both took Alabama last week, so clearly it wasn't what you were expecting to happen.
No, I said it would be a close game. I thought LSU would cover. You know, they were 6.5. I thought it would be within a field goal. But boy, oh boy, I was so impressed with Joe Burrows, man. He is so good. He pretty much put his stamp on the Heisman Trophy with this performance. I mean, he had 393 yards, 3 touchdowns, going into Tuscaloosa, balled out. They were having a blast. Ed Orgeron can't understand a damn word he's saying. Well, I don't know how this happens, but man, is he fun to listen to.
Real quick, it was the first time, like, I've probably heard his voice before, but watching him, he's like this roided out cartoon character, man. Oh, we had a good game. Oh, we put it all on the field. We beat our Alabama. What the hell are you saying, man? How does this team even know what the hell play he's calling?
It's an impressive ass win. I mean,
it is. It really is.
To do that, and you know they haven't beat Alabama. I think it was 8 straight going into this. How awesome also was it too that the LSU players went to where the recruits were sitting in Alabama and say, "Rethink your choice."
Yeah.
That was awesome.
That's a gangster
I loved
move,
it.
man.
I loved it. No, that game was great. You know, everyone was saying lots of points. LSU's going to win, and I'm like, anything. When enough people talk about it, you go the other way. So that's why I thought Bama and lower points. For once, the national media was right. Hell of a game.
It really was a hell of a game, and I won't touch on it too much because you hit a lot of the points. I did expect it to be a little bit lower scoring. Like I thought both teams off of a bye would have a little bit more time to game plan schematically on the defensive side. But, you know, it was more fun to watch with it being high-powered offense. The big thing for me, because the way the game progressed in the second half was much closer to what I thought. Alabama definitely was the better team in the second half. I just didn't expect them to make so many mistakes in the first half. And I know Tua wasn't 100%, but both those turnovers are unacceptable, man. You can't attribute that to the injury. On the first one, they're about to go down, either go up at least 3-0, if not 7-0. Dude just lets the ball fall out of his hand. And I get it. You haven't practiced in 3 weeks, but
there's no excuse.
No,
You've been
there's
carrying
no
a football
excuse.
for years. You should know how to carry a football.
Not in that game, man. Yeah, really, I was pleased as a fan that LSU won because I'm tired of seeing Alabama. And you're right, Joe Burrow locked up the Heisman with that game. He looked elite at Alabama, and he was the first guy to beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa in 31. Well, they had won 31 straight, so in 32 games, he was the first one to beat him there. So hats off to LSU. Great game. I lost a bit of money wagering on the under, but you know what?
We
I
all
don't even
did.
care. I don't even care. It's whatever.
He's going to look very good in Cincinnati Bengals colors.
Oh, my God. Anyway, so kind of piggybacking off of that, with LSU beating Alabama as well as Penn State losing to Minnesota, the college football rankings got shaken up a little bit.
Yeah.
So currently, for those of you who aren't aware of what the rankings are, it's LSU at 1, Ohio State dropped down to 2, you got Clemson at 3, Georgia at number 4, and then at 5 and 6, rounding out the looking in, you got Alabama at 5 and Oregon at 6. So do you agree with how this top 4 is, man?
Yeah, I agree. I actually thought that they would put Alabama in over Georgia at 4 just because Georgia lost to South Carolina, whereas Bama just lost to what is now ranked the best team in the country. However, I thought there's a little disrespect out there to Oklahoma. I think they're ranked 10th right now. A little upset about that. Think they should be up there. I mean, yeah, Kansas State loss was a bad loss, but
no worse than South Carolina.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. And they're going to go and run their conference. They're going to be the conference champion easy, I think. I like Oregon where they're at. I mean, the only issue is I think Oklahoma's too far back. I mean, I think they got it right. I think, Clemson's obviously going to go undefeated, so they're going to be there because they just play in a cake conference. I don't even know who they play next. I think it's like Little Sisters of the Poor, followed by Little Brothers of the Poor. So, I'm not sure who they got, but I'm sure it's not going to be close.
No, probably not. My issues with the with the top 4 or the rankings in general are the exact same as you have. Although I wish Georgia was worthy of being of number 4, obviously a loss to South Carolina is much worse than a 5-point loss to the now number 1 team in the country. I hate to say it, but Alabama should be at number 4 right now. And that obviously, once you have conference championships, everything gets thrown up in the air. So I wouldn't mind seeing Bama at 4. And I agree, Oklahoma should be closer to like 7 or 8, not at 10. Because
you can even make a case for Oregon to be at number 4, to be honest. They had their loss to Auburn, who's,
Yeah, I guess I could see that. And Georgia,
it's not a strong enough case. I just think Georgia shouldn't be there right now.
I agree. So talking about where teams are going to fall after the conference championship, though, what do you think the chances are that Alabama still finds a way in, even though it looks like they're not even going to play in their conference championship?
I eventually, when it comes down to it, I don't think they're going to get in.
Okay, so tell me how you think that plays out.
I think it's going to be Oregon in there at number 4. I think they go win the Pac-12. Oklahoma, they're already being disrespected, so I don't see them having a shot getting in. So you look, LSU will probably handle Georgia in the SEC game, so that gives Georgia 2 losses. If you're putting Georgia ahead of Bama now, if LSU goes and beats Georgia, why should they even be in the playoff then? Why would you not put a conference champion like Oregon in instead? And then, like you said...
Oh, no, if Georgia lost in the conference, there's no way they would be in.
Right.
Not a chance.
So, and then you look at Ohio State. They're going to stay there. I think they're going to run the Big Ten. They're the best team in the Big Ten. I know Minnesota looked really good against Penn State, but that's really it. I don't know who else will really give them a run for their money in the Big Ten, so they'll stay. And, Clemson, well, like we said, they're going to be there.
Yeah, so assuming LSU, Ohio State, Clemson all run, well, let's say all these top 6 teams run the table to the conference championship. Unfortunately, just based off of how the committee has been the past couple years, there's a decent chance Alabama winds up getting in.
Yeah, there's
because
a lot of Bama love.
the committee does not pay a lot of respect to the Pac-12, and especially if Oregon faces a nobody in the Pac-12. Now, granted, Utah's good enough this year that a win there might get them in, but we still got to see how the rest of the season plays out. Obviously, LSU, Ohio State, Clemson are going to be in because I see all of them winning their conference championship. The only way that I see Georgia still making it in is if somehow they beat LSU in the conference.
They have to win the SEC to get in.
But let's say, because Utah's a one-loss team right now, correct? Let's say Utah goes in and beats Oregon in the Pac-12. Do you see in the Pac-12 championship, do you see Alabama not getting in favor of Utah?
Well,
no. It sucks, but... And to me, you shouldn't be able to make you shouldn't be able to make the playoff unless you at least appear in a conference championship.
Right.
I know the SEC is tough, but suck it up, Nick. You should have beat LSU.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta beat the people ahead of you in order to get into into the conversation.
You have no
if you're
choice
not
but to play the teams on your schedule. You got to win.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I just have a bad feeling they're still going to be there, and if they are there, I have a bad feeling that they're going to get hot, and we're going to see Alabama in another freaking championship. But we'll keep talking about that probably a lot more as we get closer to bowl season. Anyway, last bit on college football right here. Some news about a player instead of a team. We want to talk about that Chase Young suspension a little bit. And to kind of give a rundown, basically Chase Young got he could face up to a 4-game suspension because he took a loan.
It's 2. It came out as 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's officially 2.
Yeah, he'll come back for the Penn State game.
Okay, so they probably worked really hard to negotiate that. Anyway, the suspension happened because he took a loan from a family friend, apparently to fly his girlfriend out to the bowl game he was playing in, and then paid the guy back by that summer. So within a couple of months, he paid the guy back. Ohio State self-reported this, and obviously, since he got 2-game suspension, the NCAA still thought it was worthy of punishment. So do you agree with him?
Worthy of a punishment?
I can tell you agree with him.
Are you kidding me right now? Worthy of a punishment. This was a family friend before he even went into Ohio State, okay? They gave him the money to fly his girlfriend out for the Rose Bowl last year, which is a huge deal in any collegiate. Who wouldn't want their family, loved ones to be there, all right? So the NCAA is basically telling me, you know what? You're poor. You can't afford this, and now you're borrowing money? Screw you anyway. They're basically penalizing him for not being able to afford it right off the bat. The man probably worked his ass off in the summer to pay his family back. It's not like he took money and kept the money. This just makes the NCAA look horrible. I'm really pissed at the way it went down. I mean, I just don't understand. These financial rules that the NCAA has in place are hundreds of years old the way they act sometimes, and it's just getting worse and worse from their perspective.
Yeah, this is a really bad look for the NCAA for me. Like, how are you going to tell a college student that you can't let someone who's really close to your family, so we'll basically call them family because I've got non-relatives that are basically relatives, someone close to your family just gives you some money to help you out. You're a broke college student just trying to get your girlfriend. How is that illegal? Even if he was just getting the money and went and spent it going out and drinking, shouldn't be illegal. No matter what kind of loan he's getting from whoever, it shouldn't matter unless it's from someone who works for an athletically related program, whether it's an NFL team, an NFL agent, or another college team. Taking money from anyone should not be illegal. Chase Young should be able to go to every single person on campus and say, "Hi, I'm Chase Young. I'll give you an autograph for $100." He should be able to do that. And I'm hoping the new rule, quote unquote, because the NCAA is going to find a way to dick around with this one, but for players to profit off their likeness, just makes this type of crap go away. It's ridiculous the type of stranglehold that the NCAA tries to have over their athletes when they generate them so much freaking money. You're really going to tell this kid he can't borrow money from someone? It's berserk. It blows my mind. It's so freaking stupid. A 2-game suspension is too much, and thankfully he'll be back for the
He shouldn't have been suspended any game.
No, he shouldn't have been suspended at all. This should be a non-issue. And the fact that he came out and they were like, "Hey, I did this. I'm sorry, but this is how it went down," and you still it's dumb.
And you know what
Screw
pisses
the
me off
NCAA.
even more? They're probably going to investigate Jalen Hurts autographing that football for that kid that was in that video getting bullied.
Hell
He
yeah,
autographed
they
the
are.
football, gave the kid the football, and said, "If you ever need anything, you let me know." Damn right the NCAA is going to look into that. Are they going to suspend him? We don't know. Who knows? Same thing. It's the same exact thing.
No, I don't understand where the NCAA gets off thinking that they can control what these athletes do off the football field or outside of a football space. It shouldn't. All of that should not matter. End of story. There shouldn't be any more discussion of that. So clearly we're both on the same page there. It's ridiculous.
He was in Heisman conversation. That ruins that. You know, he's definitely going to be a top 3 pick regardless. But,
oh, yeah.
I mean, the kid, he was leading the country in sacks. He's a Heisman candidate.
Yeah, and thankfully they don't have any big games. They're still going to get to the playoff, and they're still going to be able to make noise in games that matter. But it's just a principle here, man.
Yeah, it's all principle.
It is. So kind of speaking of things based off of principle, there's a player that has been suspended kind of illegitimately, not technically a suspension, but he hasn't been playing for a while in the NFL. Apparently, Colin Kaepernick scheduled a tryout for all the NFL teams, or actually the NFL scheduled Colin Kaepernick a tryout on a Saturday, gave him less than a week's notice, and he had no option to reschedule it.
They gave him 2 hours to accept it.
Okay, so that's just the groundwork for those of you who haven't listened about this or read about it yet. So yeah, he's basically saying you get one shot, one opportunity. That's an Eminem
song. Yeah.
His palms are sweating. Anyway,
Mom's weak. Mom's spaghetti.
So yeah, he has basically a forced tryout. Says this is your last shot to try out for teams. Take it or leave it. First of all, what's your opinion on how or why the NFL is doing this? And secondly, do you see this in any facet having the possibility of leading to a job this season for Colin Kaepernick?
Talk about handling a situation poorly. Boy, the NFL is just botching this left and right, too. Like, at this point, you should have just let it go. That's from Frozen. Let it go. Let it go.
We're all about the quotes today.
Yeah, seriously. But, yeah, it was botched. They should have never done it. And if they're going to do it, they should have let him do it when other teams actually try out players. On a Tuesday, I believe they normally work out players. You should have let him do that. No one's going to be there. I mean, if they're not going to be getting ready for their own game, they're going to be having their scouts at college games where the likelihood of them being on the team is probably more than Kaepernick being on their team.
I know.
So to me, I don't think it's going to get them a job. Maybe a team like Cincinnati, but probably not, because Cincinnati's going to tank at this point.
They're in rebuild mode.
These teams are set with what they want to do and how they want to control their future. They're not going to go sign a quarterback that hasn't seen the field in 3 years.
Yeah, so before I get to the actual tryout and what's going on, I'll just preface it by saying I was never a huge fan of Colin Kaepernick getting moved out of the league for what he did. Like, to me, I just wasn't in love with that. Nonetheless, he did show when he was most recently on the field that he probably is not good enough to be a starter in the league, and I can understand from a business and chemistry perspective why a team would not want to take a chance on Cap. So just kind of to establish that. But this is such a phony freaking move by the NFL. Like, they're just trying to give this the shittiest facade ever that they aren't blackballing this dude. Like, just step the hell up and own it. It's so clear. Like, you schedule a tryout without giving him any notice on a Saturday, like you said, the day before game day. He can't reschedule. Like, who the hell is going to show up and give him a shot? Like, the one other explanation I can give for this is that there were one or two teams that were thinking about going after him and making a play on him, and they worked with Roger Goodell, so that team, if they decided not to sign him, they wouldn't get backlash from their fans. But I don't think that's the case. I think this is just the NFL being shady, being petty, and saying, all right, Cap, you want a tryout? Here's a tryout. It's dumb, man. It's once again, just like the NCAA, it wasn't a good look for that space. This is a bad look for the NFL. Like, it's so disingenuous, and it's so clear that they're not actually trying to give Colin Kaepernick a fair shot to show teams that he might be able to contribute in this league.
Yeah, the NFL should just let it go and move on.
Seriously, they should have just let it go. And if a team was interested, they could man up and they could give him a call and deal with the backlash if they actually wanted to add him to their roster to win games.
Yep.
Anyway, not
Moving
much.
on. That's enough for a quarterback that hasn't seen a field in 3 years. Let's go.
There's really not much else to say about that other than what we just said.
Yeah.
So
well done.
So instead of spending a while talking about a quarterback that hasn't seen the field in 3 years, we're going to spend a short amount of time answering a bunch of different questions about the NFL. That's right. We're about to jump into some NFL rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
We've got 9 questions for you tonight. 2 of them come from some Facebook fans, and we're going to start off rapid fire with one of those. This question comes from Will on Facebook. Will, you've been contributing a bunch so far. We owe you a koozie. I promise you it's coming to you. We just got to figure out the logistics with the mail, get some envelopes, or the next time you see Storm, we can just hand off a koozie in person. Anyway, Will's question is about Cam Newton, who has recently come out and said that he would welcome a trade to the Chicago Bears. Now, Storm, do you think this is going to happen? And if so, would it be a good fit?
I think it has the potential to happen. There's definitely some legs there, and I think it would be a good fit. You know, everyone keeps talking about Matt Nagy being a great offensive coordinator. He comes from that Andy Reid tree, and who does Andy Reid succeed well? Quarterbacks that can move and throw the ball just enough. That's what Cam Newton does. Mitch Trubisky sure as hell ain't doing that. So, yeah, absolutely. Why not? That defense is primed to win now. You got to give him probably another weapon, maybe a better running back. Well, no, they have Montgomery, so we'll see what he comes up with. But, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think he would be a good fit there, but I don't know if he'll end up a Chicago Bear. It depends who gives the it depends who gives the Carolina Panthers the best offer.
Right.
Tennessee could decide that they want some Cam Newton and give a better offer.
Right. You got to think Chicago doesn't have much after what they gave up for Max.
I think there's about 3 or 4 teams that could really use a Cam Newton right now. I think you look at Chicago. I think you look at Tennessee. I think you look at the Chargers, who are about to move, and Cam Newton might be a nice transition piece when they go officially move to L.A. So it depends who gives the best offer. Because if people are interested, Carolina's not just going to cut him. I know he's only a $2 million cap hit, but they're going to try and get something for him. All right, thank you, Will, for that question. Question numero dos. After seeing them face off head-to-head this weekend, which New York team, the Jets or the Giants, should feel better about their quarterback of the future?
I don't know. Neither one of them really looked that good. They both look pretty crappy. But I'll stick with Sam Darnold right now. I think at this point, who comes down to getting a better coach, and one of those New York teams better have a coach by the name of Matt Rule next year.
That's a good point. Matt Rule is definitely worthy of an NFL job. But I agree with you. I'm leaning Sam Darnold as well. Just like you, I'm not in love with either of them right now. Yeah. Daniel Jones fumbles the ball too much. Sam Darnold throws a few too many interceptions.
They both turn over. Sam Darnold turns over last time.
But I like Darnold's physique. I like his stature, and I think he's a bit better of an arm talent. So I'll go with Darnold right now. Question number 3. After all this talk of tanking, do you think the Dolphins are even going to land the top 3 pick this year?
So right now they're in position to be a top 5 pick, I think.
Top 5? That's not good enough, though. If you're tanking, it's top 3 or nothing.
I know. And I think they will wind up in the top 3 was all said and done. I think they'll wind up losing that second game to the Jets, right? Mm-hmm. And then, I think Atlanta will be good for 1 or 2 more games. So I think Dolphins stay at 2. I think they have a pretty tough schedule going forward. But, I mean, let's be honest. Cincinnati has the the number 1 locked up.
Oh, it's locked up. Ryan Finley made sure of that.
And I don't even know what to think about Washington. I mean, they have Dwayne Haskins, so number 2 might as well be locked up for them as well.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I want to say yes, but like number 1 is Cincinnati. Number 2 is probably going to be Washington right now because I don't see them winning a game the rest of the season. And then Miami, like, they get Cincinnati like week 16 or 17.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Again. Miami could be a 4-win team because they play hard. So I think I'm leaning towards no. Now,
who's after Josh Rosen and Fitzmagic? Because that's who they need to start playing.
Throw Kalen Ballage. Just run the Wildcat the rest of the season, guys. Come on. Now, the good news is for them is that the teams ahead of them, other than Cincinnati, probably aren't going to go for a quarterback because you got Cincinnati. Washington has Haskins. The Jets aren't moving off of Darnold. Atlanta's sticking with Matt Ryan if they fall in there. So Miami's basically going to get the quarterback that Cincinnati doesn't want. And I'm not even opposed to them passing on a quarterback this year, stockpiling more picks, later rounds, and you go after Trevor Lawrence next year. You put together a hell of a package get him and really move forward.
For sure.
All right, question number 4. Should the Tennessee Titans, who just lit up that Kansas City defense, feel comfortable with former Miami Dolphin quarterback Ryan Tannehill moving forward?
I mean, for the rest of this year, absolutely over Marcus Mariota. But I still think they should look at taking a quarterback, doing their due diligence. Tannehill's playing all right. I mean, he's not gonna wow anybody into a Super Bowl. I don't think so. You got to move forward and look for somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, he's just underwhelming. He's a 9-7 quarterback that could get you to the playoffs, maybe win you a wild card game, but like I've said before on the show, he's just slightly better than Marcus Mariota, but almost a carbon copy, man. Like, I know he's playing a little bit better this year, but Mariota's had years where he's played all right and gotten 9-7.
These quarterbacks are going to get hot when they get hot. I mean,
we've said it before. You either need a quarterback that's on a rookie deal so you can have a great team around them, or you need a next-level top 5 guy if you actually want to compete for a Super Bowl. So, like you said, maybe a year or two so you can groom a young quarterback. That's fine, but nah, he's not a quarterback of the future. He's a good backup. All right, question number 5, I believe. Losing track. Is it time to start talking about Phillip Rivers the way that we've all talked about Eli Manning for the past, 2.5 years?
Man, we're certainly getting to that point. I mean, Phillip Rivers hasn't been turning the ball over at the rate that Eli Manning did those last couple of years, but he does have 10 picks.
Man.
He has looked bad. I think if we see this through the rest of this year, and he starts next year and he starts doing this at the beginning of next year, yeah, I'm putting him in the Eli talk. You got to think, Eli's coming off like a 7-year regression almost at this point, and Phillip Rivers isn't there yet. So I'm not there yet, but I am about 3/4 of the way there.
I'm right where you're at. I'm almost there. And you kind of made the point. Eli, it was just clear for multiple years that he was going downhill. Phillip Rivers had a pretty good season last year. Obviously led his team to an AFC divisional playoff game. Had a pretty good touchdown interception ratio, but he just looks like he's lost a little bit. And for an immobile, standstill quarterback like him, dropping a little bit is really going to make you look bad. Like, his accuracy is just a tick off. That deep ball doesn't look the same way it used to. And he's turned the ball over too much. Like, he's not washed yet, but the Chargers really have to start thinking about replacing him sooner rather than later. So Nick Foles returns this week. Do you think the Jags are going to look better or worse with him under center?
I think over time they'll look better. I think he does definitely has some rust to shake off. I mean, he didn't get much time with the Jags to begin with before he got hurt, so there's going to be some rust. There's going to be some, I guess, acclimacy. Is that a good word?
Yeah,
maybe.
He's going to have to acclimate himself.
Acclimate himself, yeah. So, I think it's going to be a little rough against Indy. It's a pretty good defense, but going forward, I think they will look better. Yeah,
I agree. Like in this game, it might not show, but going forward, they're going to look slightly better because he is slightly better than Gardner Minshew, if only for experience. And we've seen Nick Foles prove that, especially in big games, he can ball out and win you some games. So I heard Calais Campbell talking about him, and he, just like everyone else who plays with Nick Foles, freaking loves him. He was asked, who's the best quarterback in the league? Nick Foles.
I wonder if they have a shrine in the locker room for him yet, like Chris Long did.
a Minshew and a Foles shrine next to each other. Oh my gosh, it'd be fantastic. All right. Question number 740, wherever we're at. Are there any teams that should try and sign Des Bryant? He's shown some workout videos, which is, I think T.O. started that trend, like showing you lifting weights in the driveway or whatever. Should any team take a shot with him?
Listen, if there's two teams that should take a shot at him, they're right in this state where we're recording, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles and Pittsburgh Steelers. Both wide receiver needy right now. Why not? Give it a shot. Who cares?
You know what? I had no here at first because I don't think the Eagles could really use him. They don't need a receiver like Dez because he's slow.
They
he's
just
not
need
a great
someone
route
that can
runner,
catch a damn ball.
and he's always been dependent on athleticism. Well, coach your receivers better. Put some more stickum on those gloves. But now, actually, that you say the Steelers would be a good fit for him right now. He's a good possession receiver. It would help to open Juju up. And they already have speed guys in Washington. And who's the other guy?
I don't know.
Anyway, the other guy who lit the
Deontay Johnson or something
right.
like that. Yeah.
So, no, I think the Steelers is actually a good call there. You changed my mind. Look at that. Anything can happen on NFL Rapid Fire, guys. Next question. Is it time for the Colts to cut Adam Vinatieri, who has already missed 11 kicks this year?
Yes. You got to move on. I don't care what you find. You'll probably find someone better than him. I understand what he's done in his career and for the Colts franchise, and there's probably some emotional attachment there. But, dude, he's costing you games. You got to move on.
Yeah, it's just sad to watch because of the historic kicks that he basically kick-started that New England dynasty.
Yeah.
Like you said, he's hit so many big kicks for this Indy team, but you saw San Fran was able to literally drag someone off of his couch
And shank one in overtime, but I see what you're saying.
Although he did make the one. I meant to mention that during that segment. He made the one to put them into overtime. So I did feel some sort of way about the Monday Night Crew saying that the moment was too big for him.
Yeah,
BS. The dude he went 3
Well, the
or
Monday
4.
Night Crew's clueless. Anyway,
Yeah, that is true. But no, it's Adam Vinatieri, nothing but respect, but it's time for you to go. And he wanted to go. They had to beg him to come back in the offseason. This is what you beg for, guys? Chris Ballard has done so much good for that Colts organization. This, I think, is his worst call. All right. Anyway, our last question, we sandwich this rapid fire with Facebook questions. This last one comes from Nick on Facebook. And he has a question about some of the non-first-round quarterbacks this year. So do any of the non-first-round QBs that are making their first starts this year? So I narrowed it down a little bit, but we're looking at Mason Rudolph, Ryan Finley, Kyle Allen, Brandon Allen, Gardner Minshew. So none of them were drafted in the first round.
Right.
Do any of them have a future as a franchise quarterback in the NFL?
When I look at the two that stick out to me the most right now is Kyle Allen, obviously because it looks like Cam Newton's played his final snaps, and it'll be Kyle Allen taking over there going forward. The other one I look at is Gardner Minshew. I mean, do they move on from Nick Foles? We'll see what happens. I mean, he electrified him a little bit, had his moments, but, I mean, for a rookie sixth-round pick, he looked like he belonged in the NFL. And then, a lot of people are like, well, what about Mason Rudolph? I just don't think he's shown enough yet. That offense is pretty stagnant. They really haven't been moving the ball. They're being put in good places because of that defense is tops in the league right now. So those two are my definites. And Ryan Finley, Brandon Allen. Brandon Allen's going to be competing with Drew Lock. Ryan Finley, who knows what's going to happen with him. I mean, he looked like trash in Cincy against Baltimore.
Yeah, he did. And granted, it was against a pretty good secondary in Baltimore, but I'm kind of with you. The first guy, or the number one guy on the list for me is Gardner Minshew. Just the way that he stayed composed in that offense, especially without some of the skill players that Kyle Allen has. I think Gardner Minshew definitely has a future as a starter in this league. He just has that moxie, that swag. Kyle Allen, I'm kind of confident in, but still a little unsure about. They've really ridden that run game, and that can lead to a pretty prosperous future in the NFL, but I'm not sure. Mason Rudolph, maybe?
Yeah, I just haven't seen enough there yet. I mean, he's had some great throws, but he's looked really bad.
I don't love him.
And then, granted, they don't have really a running back right now, but I don't know.
Yeah, and then Brandon Allen, Ryan Finley, I don't feel confident. Probably not, but it's too early to tell.
Yeah.
All right, that wraps up this week's edition of NFL Rapid Fire. Woo! So we're about to take a break, guys, but before we do, as we like to do what we do on this show, we like to talk about the beer we're drinking. This week, we've got a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, and to tell you a little bit about it, we got our producer, James, a.k.a. our in-house beer connoisseur. James, you want to come up on here and take a seat?
Look at him making that appearance. Well done, sir. Well done.
James,
How are you, Storm? How
What's
are you,
up?
practice
What's up?
squad? So this week we're just going with the standard. But one of the oldest in the craft beer traditions, Sierra Nevada, based out of California, their Pale Ale, which is a good workhorse. It's only 5.6 ABV. Very drinkable, but you don't have to, if you're at someone's party, you don't know anybody, you definitely bring this and share it. It's not your standard like domestic or anything like that. It is highly drinkable. You can take it, you get in bottles or cans. It is brewed with Cascade hops and caramelized malts. That's such a weird word to say.
So delicious, though.
Yeah.
I don't know what caramelized malts are, but they are delicious.
Yeah, this is a great pale ale that you can basically introductory if you're trying to get one of your friends into craft beer. You can take this anywhere. I'm a big fan of it. We used to sell it a lot at the deli I worked at, and yeah, cheers, bud.
Cheers. One of my favorite beers for sure.
So Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, you can get it anywhere. I highly recommend.
Thank you, James.
I will reclaim my seat. Yeah. Yeah, this when the guy said that this was going to be our beer of the week, man, this is my favorite beer. I drank it when I lived in Seattle for a little while. I got onto it. Like James said, it really is. I know drinkable is kind of a vague word, but it's nice. It's not.
Yes.
It doesn't have too much flavor, too much hops. It's a nice one that you can have a few and not feel like you're overwhelmed by the flavor.
It'll
by the
get you
weight
through
of it.
today. It'll get you through today.
I love this beer. Anyway, I feel like drinking a little bit of it off camera, so we're gonna take a quick break as usual. But sit tight. We're coming right back at you in a little bit with some more NFL talk, Storm's bets of the weeks, my DFS advice, and we're gonna throw a little bit of NBA talk in there. So we'll see you guys in a little bit. We are back, guys, ready to start half number 2 of the Practice Squad podcast. Like I mentioned at the end of the last half, we are jam-packed for this second half right here, so let's not waste any time with too many intros. Let's just jump right into it. And as usual, we like to start off this half of the show by letting Storm fill you in on some of his betting advice for the week. So, Storm, have at it, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, after last week, I'm not sure if people really want to listen. I mean, I had a lot of people, I think, saw through social media and stuff, and they started calling me out. I'm like, listen, if you followed all season, you understand, we're still 26-17. We're making money, okay?
See, that's what happens when you put it in writing, though.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
once you put it on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, it becomes real forever.
And that's when you start getting trolls, and that's when you know you're starting to hit it big, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So like I said, we're 26-17. We went 2-4 last week. San Jose, Seattle covered for us. Both of those unders I gave in the Alabama-LSU game missed. The first half under, the total under.
Yeah.
Penn State was a miss. And then I gave that wild Purdue Northwestern under, which I really don't want to count too much because I just said, like, that's a let's get weird pick. It was 39.5. Like, people aren't going to – I mean, you're going to play it probably, but, that's a gamble. It's a lot of fun to watch a game like that.
That's right. You got to risk it for the biscuit sometimes,
Yeah,
man.
exactly. So, you know what? We're going to bounce back, obviously, is what we do here. I haven't had 2 losing weeks in a row, and we're going to keep it that way.
Let's keep it that way. Please, I'd like to retain these listeners.
Yeah, exactly. I would like to retain some money, too. So, we will start off Friday with the 9:30 game. We have San Diego State as a pick'em versus Fresno. All right. San Diego State has the bestie in the Mountain View, and still overall they're just better than Fresno. I think San Diego State losing to Nevada this past week slightly Vegas took a little value away from them, so we're gonna jump on it. I think San Diego State's still just as good. I just think the Nevada game was a hookup. I think they go in there, and I think they take care of Fresno State. Or just Fresno, sorry. So we're going to take San Diego State as a pick'em. They're a pick'em right now. Oh. So, yeah. So it's pick a winner. Yeah. Pick a winner. It's easy, right?
Hey, you can do the spread or the money line, whichever one you want.
Exactly.
Guys.
Yeah, seriously. They're probably going to be the same odds if they're a pick'em, but, yeah, it doesn't matter. All right. Florida -7 at Mizzou. Florida coming off a 56-0 beatdown of Vanderbilt.
Looked
okay.
good.
Mizzou, on the other hand, has only scored 21 points in their last 3 games combined. And that includes a game against Vanderbilt, a game against Kentucky, and a game against Georgia. So, I mean, the writing's on the wall there. Florida, I feel like, should be a double-digit point favorite right here. I know their offense hasn't always been scoring like it was last week, But I feel like they're still a team that's on a mission to try to prove some people wrong, that they kind of belong in that conversation, even though I don't think they do. They're still going to go out there and prove it. Give me Florida -7 at Mizzou there. Our next game we're going to is Michigan State plus 13.5 at Michigan. Listen, I know Michigan State just came back from that horrendous blown 23-point lead against Illinois, which should never happen, okay? I understand that. But here's the bottom line here. Michigan State just seems to always come to perform against Michigan. Whether they win or lose, they have covered in their last 5 games at Ann Arbor against the spread, and they are 10-1 in their last 11 meetings versus Michigan covering the spread
impressive.
there. So we're rolling with the odds. I always feel like Michigan State has a little something there for that Michigan game. I don't think they're going to be in a letdown moment here after blowing that lead to Illinois. Michigan always gets them up. It's going to get closer than you think. Michigan, while has scored some points lately, I don't think they have the offense be favored by almost 2 touchdowns. So give me Michigan State plus 13.5 there. So there's my 3 college games. NFL, I'm still doing some research, so we're going to put that in writing again, so maybe we'll get some more trolls from the listeners to give me a hard time, right? So, but a couple leans I have right now. I have Oakland -10 versus Cincinnati. High, I know, but look at what, look what or Baltimore just did to Cincinnati. Cincinnati's not there. They're not all there. I just don't. Oakland.
It's a scary. I get where you're coming from.
It's a scary line.
It don't make sense, but double-digit lines.
I know. Oh, it's definitely scary. Hey, like you said, you got to risk it to get the biscuit, all right?
Taking the words out of my own mouth.
So, and then the other one I have is Carolina -5.5 at Atlanta. It's another lean. Atlanta coming off a huge, weird win against New Orleans that probably no one saw coming, okay? I think it should be another high one, closer to a touchdown. I think it actually might get to a touchdown by Sunday. So if you want to do your research now and then jump on it early at 5.5, I would do that. So like I said, I'll give my definite picks Saturday night, Sunday morning. Be on the lookout at TPS Pod on Twitter and the Practice Squad podcast on Facebook. But just to reiterate, Friday 9:30 is the San Diego State as a pick'em versus Fresno. Then on Saturday you have Florida -7 at Missouri, and then you have Michigan State plus 13.5 at Michigan. So like I said, we haven't lost 2 weeks in a row yet. We're not going to start now.
Yeah, so if you haven't bet yet, this might be the week to jump on it.
Yeah, I've had 2 losing weeks so far. The last time I had a losing week, we ran 7 straight, I think it was.
Yeah, it was at least 6 in a row.
Yeah, and then the week, so this is my 3rd one. So then the second one after that, we wound up going like 6-2. And then this is the 3rd one, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so follow that trend. And as Storm mentioned, keep an eye out on our social media. So, like you said, our Twitter is at TPSPod. Still hate that handle, but you know what? We got to live with it.
If anyone has any good handles that could keep it under, I think it's 16 digits to represent the podcast, let us know. We'll send you a koozie.
Or if you have the at Practice Squad handle, let us know. We'll send you 3 koozies to send that account over to us.
Yeah, 5.
All right, man. It's a free handle. You know, he's not paying anything for it. Anyway,
you'll be surprised.
Anyway, and then also definitely follow us on Facebook as well. We try and do a lot of posts, do different photos. We're giving out free stuff. We're dropping our picks, fantasy advice, anything that we can think of. We're putting on social media. So yeah, give us a follow. We'd really appreciate it. But good. No, those bets sound good. I have faith in you this week, buddy. You're gonna bounce back.
Always bounce back.
Anyway, to bounce on to the next topic, we're going to talk
really cheesy. And you did the bounce on the camera. Okay, I'm sorry.
We're going to talk some NBA. And as we've mentioned before with our weekly format, it's always difficult to really just break down individual games. Like, we could just talk about LeBron or talk about Kawhi, which is all most sports talk shows are really doing in terms of the NBA now. But we're not going to do that. Instead, there's just a couple interesting stories that have happened since we last sat here at the mics. And I want to ask Storm whether it's a big deal or no big deal. So, Storm, big deal or no big deal? The Clippers fined $50,000 because they mishandled Kawhi's injury / load management. Is that a big deal?
$50,000, that's chump change. Listen, everyone, I don't know why the NBA all of a sudden decided that they wanted to find the Clippers. Did they ever find Toronto? And he played, 60, 65 games in Toronto? Come on, man. That's not a big deal. The NBA is making a bigger joke out of this than it has to be. I think they're trying to prevent the load management, but they're not going to be able to. I mean, Kawhi is banged up a little bit. He does have ankle problems, a history of ankle problems. So if he's going to sit on the second night of a back-to-back or the first night of a back-to-back, I don't understand how they can find him. Still, not a big deal. It's $50,000.
Yeah, it's no big deal, mainly because of the amount of money. Steve Ballmer owns that team, man. Do you know how much that dude is worth? He finds $50,000 in his lint screen after doing laundry. So it's not a big deal because of that. And I get it. The NBA doesn't want its biggest stars sitting out for national TV games. So I do kind of see the concern there. I wish the Clippers would have handled it a bit differently, but Clippers are trying to win a championship. That's their number one goal, from the coaching staff up to the GM. The owner wants to make money, obviously, but you do that by winning games. And Kawhi has shown that he isn't the most durable, and it helps to sit out 20 games. Now, if the NBA wants to throw a fuss over when those games are, let them. I'm sure Steve Ballmer will eat those fines gladly if it brings him a chip or two.
If he's racing that title at the end of the year, if it winds up being $300K, that's nothing to him.
He don't care.
Nope.
All right, next one. Big deal or no big deal? Gordon Hayward fractured his hand and is going to be out approximately 6 weeks.
I really don't know. I'm going to go with big deal here. Listen, I know it's only 6 weeks. He's probably going to return around New Year's or whatever, but he's been red hot starting off this season. And that's why I'm saying that. You don't know what he's going to turn into afterwards. He's been averaging, I think it's 20-8 right now. He came off, he had a season or tied a career high 39 points last week. Cat's been balling. Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, we'll see what happens. Coming off fractured hand, you never know.
Yeah, I agree. It's a big deal. From the injury perspective, yeah, you never know if they're going to come back and be totally fine. But for me, it's about a chemistry thing. This team is, I think, first in the East right now. Yeah. They have one loss, maybe two. I didn't check the scores from last night. But yeah, it's a chemistry thing, and they've been vibing so well on offense now that Gordon Hayward and all those guys don't have Kyrie to worry about. Now, my concern is that if he's gone for long enough, are we going to see Tatum and Brown kind of get that ego back and try and really push it and try and be scorers first? And when Hayward comes back, they try and make him a backseat as opposed to really evenly distributing the ball. I have faith that Brad Stevens can keep them level-headed, and they'll still be good record-wise, but chemistry-wise, I'm a little concerned. Big deal. All right, this is a fun one. Big deal or no big deal? Dion Waiters just got handed a 10-game suspension after he ate some special gummies and had a seizure on the team plane. Big deal or no big deal, Storm?
It's a big deal because he doesn't know how to do his research, man. We could do enough research to know how many gummies we could eat before things go awry.
I will say,
special gummies.
I will say, allegedly, he took one gummy. That's what was said. He took one gummy.
Well, if it's one, I heard 10. I thought so. Whatever it was.
10 games, one gummy.
Whatever it was. It's not a big deal. Whatever.
Yeah.
Man's living his life. If he doesn't know how to handle his own, whatever.
Yeah, to me, it's not a big deal. This is a guy that hasn't really fit in on this Miami Heat squad. Yeah. He hasn't fit in anywhere he's gone. I feel bad. The dude was just trying to catch a little buzz on the team plane and get a nap.
Probably trying to sleep or something.
All of a sudden, he wakes up and he finds out that he had a seizure. I feel for the guy. And then, after Embiid gets suspended 2 games for throwing physical, Ben Simmons gets no suspension for a headlock. Poor Dion Waiters gets 10 games for having a seizure because he had a marijuana gummy. It's insane. I feel bad for the guy. I do.
Marijuana really gummies, BBC Arena. Miami's off the chain right now, dude.
I don't know.
We need an update on BBC, too. We need to know what's going on with those naming rights.
All right. Last one. And I forgot to update this record, but
4-7. They lost last night.
All right. So
they got slaughtered by Sacramento.
Oh. So the Portland Trail Blazers, they've started off, as you said, 4-7, and currently sit at right around 10th. They may have dropped 10th or 11th in the Western Conference. Big deal or no big deal?
It's an absolute big deal. I mean, you got to look at the way Dames is playing right now, too, especially. He's putting up MVP-type numbers right now. He's averaging 32 points a game. I think his field goal percentages are around 50, 40, and 90 from 2-point, 3-point free throw. So, yeah, big deal when you're putting up those type numbers and they're losing games like they are. Trouble for them. I think they missed the playoffs.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And I'm not going to go as far as missing the playoffs, but I am very concerned. And it's a shame because Dame Lillard is probably one of my top one or two favorite players in the
like
league.
him a lot, yeah.
Love the dude's game, love his demeanor. But it's a big deal, particularly because Zach Collins is out for 4 months now.
Yep.
And he's kind of like that third option on the team. I know they have Hassan Whiteside, but
Who's
he's been
banged up as well.
Yeah, and even when he's been out there, he's been underperforming. Really, really big deal, especially coming off a year where you made it to the Western Conference Championship. So, all right, so that's our NBA big deal or no big deal. I think we agreed on most of them. So I think the consensus is Clippers fine, no big deal. Gordon Hayward, big deal. Dion Waiter's getting high and seizing. No big deal, surprisingly. And Portland with the slow start, big deal. So we'll try and keep up stuff like this, try and comment on the NBA. Things only get tastier as the season progresses.
Yeah, once you hit Christmas and New Year's, that's when things
exactly.
get real fun.
It's perfect timing because once the NFL is wrapping up, that's when NBA really gets fun. But right now, the NFL isn't wrapped up yet, so we're going to talk a little bit more football. How's that sound?
Let's do it.
Sounds good, doesn't it? All right. So
I don't think you want to talk about this topic, though.
I really, really don't, but we have to, and maybe it's just like free therapy for me to talk about. But anyway, the Rams offense and really the team as a whole struggled against the Steelers. They lost 16-12. The Rams lose coming off of the bye, dropping to 5-4, and the Steelers win their fourth straight, moving up to 5-4 now. So I want to. We could talk about the Steelers a little bit, and you can do whatever, but this question is mostly about the Rams and what has happened to their offense after they've been one of the league's most elite units the past 2 years.
Yeah, so I have a few theories, okay? The first one is obviously that O-line has gone from tops, and we talked about this when we were texting back and forth.
Yep.
The O-line has gone from tops to bottom, basically. They are terrible right now. So the O-line is trash. I don't know what they could do. I don't think they could fix that this year. Another theory is, has the NFL caught up to boy wonder Sean McVay? I don't know. I don't know if this is a result of a bad O-line play or both. Like, it feels like the defense isn't as behind as they were against them. I mean, have they even put up ridiculous numbers at all this week? I think the most ridiculous game they had was when Cooper Kupp had like 200 receiving yards.
Yeah, or when Goff had to throw it like 68 times against Tampa Bay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they lost that game.
Yeah.
So, and then I look at another thing. You traded away Marcus Peters, okay, and you acquired Jalen Ramsey. Who's playing better right now? And maybe Jalen Ramsey really is hurt, but he's ranked like 70th in quarterbacks right now. He's only got his hand on one ball so far, and that was in week 2, so that wasn't even with L.A. So, and that's not why they're losing, but you see some of these decisions that this team's making, and you're like, are they doing the right thing? And then my final theory is, are they just experiencing a Super Bowl hangover? We've seen it. Saw it with the Eagles at the beginning of last year. The only team you really don't see it with is the Patriots. Mm-hmm. So, there's my theories. I mean, you could take it away.
All right, so before I lay into the Rams...
Can we get the somber music going on here?
Before I lay into the Rams a little bit, I know we said we'd talk about them as an afterthought, but I kind of have to preface this with the case that Pittsburgh defensive unit, I have to give Mike Tomlin a ton of credit. Like, for a guy, that defense has been shaky for the past 5 or 6 years. This year, it is legit. That front four got after Jared Goff all day. Minkah Fitzpatrick was such a good pickup.
I'm not ripping that trade anymore.
Joe Hayden's playing the best ball of his career. Like, that Steelers defense is legit. With that being said, it was difficult for me to keep my eyes on the television during that game for the Rams. And it was the same thing against San Francisco a couple weeks ago. It was the same thing in the Super Bowl against New England. And really, this year, I think you hit the nail on the head. That offensive line is just disgustingly bad. I tweeted about it. I said, how do you go from being a top 5, at the very worst, top 5 offensive line unit to being just utter garbage and totally unwatchable? Like, they just totally bailed on keeping veterans on the offensive line. Like, they got rid of 2 guys to replace with rookies, and now Blythe and Havenstein are injured, so they got fill-ins there.
Yeah, they lost their center for the season, I think it was.
And Andrew Whitworth at 37 years old just isn't...
Lost 5 steps?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's not... No, go for it. Chime in, because it's true. Like, it's such a disappointment the way... So the offensive line's bad. And what we're seeing from Sean McVay, I agree. I want to see what else he's got in this bag of tricks because people were blowing smoke up his ass saying that he's a boy genius, me included. Like, he looked fantastic. But he's showing that if his team cannot run the ball at a top 5 clip, his offense doesn't work. How do you find a way to not get Cooper Kupp one catch against the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I know. My fantasy team's pissed.
And even like the game plan last week, they were actually running the ball kind of effectively, and then you move off of Gurley. I don't know what Sean McVay is doing. Like, I have lost faith in this team being a contender until they move past these contracts, man. They don't have the foundation right now. Where they're spending their money, although they're very good players, they don't live up to it. Jared Goff is not worth the money. He is showing that he cannot just like totally
He's
take
turning
over.
the ball over at a ridiculous rate.
And he's a great thrower of the football when he can sit in the pocket and he has time and he has a play action game. But like I'm at a loss for words about them. I'm no longer mad, and it's just upsetting because I had to wait 16 years, 15 years for them to go from making the playoffs in St. Louis when I first became a fan to finally becoming good again in LA. And just like that, it's gone. Like, it baffles me how it was so incredibly obvious that the strength of your team was the run game and the offensive line. And what do you do the year after the Super Bowl? You flush out your offensive line and hope that rookies can step in and live up to the potential immediately. And now you have no cap room. You've got no draft picks. You've got a running back with arthritis. You have an overpaid quarterback who has shown that he can't perform if he doesn't have the perfect condition. You've got a number 1 wide receiver in Brandon Cooks that may never play football again. You have a cornerback in Jalen Ramsey that's going to be the highest paid, and like you said, is showing that he's clearly not playing like one. And then the bright spot is Aaron Donald, who still balls out, but that's the only player opposing teams have to worry about.
And you have to pay players like Cooper Kupp coming up next year.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp.
You can give him a contract this year, I think. This is his 3rd year.
Yep.
So you give him a contract this year. What about Dante Fowler? You know, he's another one that's going to be
Corey
up
Littleton.
Corey Littleton.
Yeah, you need to keep
so
that
you got to keep paying all these players. And you said they're at the brink right now. This, to them, was their now or never year. And then you trade those picks for Ramsey. So now you have no way to rebuild any of that. You don't have any way to bring in talent right now unless you hit the jackpot on some of these later draft picks.
Yeah, we're a broken team right now, and we're in no man's land because we're not bad enough to rebuild, nor do we have the cap room or the draft space, but we're not good enough to really compete. Like, we're not going to – I don't think we'll make the playoffs, but even if we do, there's no way we're getting past a wild card round looking like this. Like, you put up 12 points against Steelers, like – I don't get it.
That defense is damn good, though, that Pittsburgh defense. But still, you should still be able to find a way to outscore a Mason Rudolph-led Steelers offense who had no running game.
Absolutely.
Now, granted, because when you think about, 16-12, 9 of those points were defensive for Pittsburgh, right? They had a pick 6 and a safety, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you look at it, the Steelers' offense only scored 7 points.
Yeah.
And you still couldn't find a way to beat them.
And that's the shame because the Rams' defense is, like, even though Jalen Ramsey isn't playing great, like, that defense is a really good unit. And we're good on special teams. And the offense, which we've been riding the coattails of for the past 2 years, now it decides to shit the bed. I'm really over this team this year, man. It sucks. I had high hopes. I didn't think we would make it back to the Super Bowl, but I didn't expect to have such a total collapse in the areas that it matters like we did this year. So, yeah, let's move on, man. I don't want to talk about it no more. Thank you. I'll pat myself on the back. All right. Now moving on to a quarterback that's definitely balling out a bit more than Jared Goff. I want to talk a bit about Lamar Jackson right now.
Let's do that right now, though.
No, it does not. Seriously, Jared Goff's on that Carson Wentz level right now.
Oh, no, he's below Carson Wentz, man.
Carson Wentz
ain't turning the ball over like he is.
Yeah, it's debatable. We'd have to look at the stats. I think it's debatable, man. Anyway, that's a topic for another day. So the Bengals, or the Ravens play Cincinnati, and they win, 49-10?
It was like when they played the Dolphins. It was bad.
Yeah, it was bad. So obviously not super high-quality opponent, but do you think Lamar Jackson is showing that he can do enough to lead this team to a championship?
Dude, that touchdown run he had was incredible. Juking through that tiny asshole and then spinning, leaving this guy in the dust, who apparently was the Bengals' leading tackler at the time, and just sprinting into the end. It was so damn impressive. He has been playing well. Like he's still not throwing the ball the way you'd like him to throw the ball, but when you're running the ball the way he is, or the team is, I guess you don't really need it. So, yeah, I think he could carry this team to a championship level. However, when it comes to having to face Bill Belichick a second time in 1 year, that's very concerning. I mean, Bill Belichick's got all those notes from last time. So, but I definitely think they could compete for a championship right now.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like you said, he definitely still has improvements to make as a passer, but you know what? I think he's completing like over 64% of his passes right now. He's throwing for enough.
Good, yeah.
And when you can run the ball like Baltimore can and like Lamar Jackson can, like you said, that one run with the spin move, it's like freaking Madden, man. It's freaking Madden on the easiest of skill levels. He can definitely lead them to a championship. And then additionally, that defense, now that it's getting healthy, it looks good. Like, I had real concerns about that defensive unit going into the season after they got rid of T-Sizzle, C.J. Mosley, lost some real leaders. But Jimmy Smith's back, obviously. That helps. And Marcus Peters, like, maybe this pisses me off. This pisses me off, Marcus. Marcus Peters, why didn't you do this as a Ram? Why? You looked like trash when you played in L.A., and you were in L.A. You should have been loving it. But you go over to freaking Baltimore, and you decide to ball out. And maybe it's because Baltimore's got better defensive coaching, or he has better cornerbacks around him and better help over the top, so he can play a little bit more of his style, which is like zone coverage, and then you try and break on the route for plays like that pick six, which I think is his second of the year already.
It was
with
second
Baltimore.
with them. And you know
Son
what?
of a bitch.
And I was listening to the broadcast a little bit through Red Zone, and I know they were after he had that pick six, they were talking. Well, I forget which defensive player said it, but they're like, Marcus Peters is one of the smartest defensive players I have ever saw or ever sat with in a film room. He's like, he's incredible. I'm like, what? And you traded what for him? A 5th round pick? Wasn't that what it was? A 5th round pick? Now, the man's going to get paid. He's not going to get Jalen Ramsey money. But a 5th round pick, if they go win the Super Bowl, they can let him walk and not have to worry about paying him. But oh my goodness, it's unreal what's going on right now. And they look good. The key to a championship anymore is an extremely solid run game and great defense, and you're built in the trenches. And that's what Baltimore is right now. And that's why I think they have a chance.
Because if you can do those things, games are at least going to be close.
Yes.
And even though Lamar, like I said, as a thrower isn't fantastic, in a game-winning drive with his legs and his arm, you best believe that he can make things happen. And my one concern is just like yours. He's going to have to face Bill Belichick a second time, which usually does not go well, particularly for young quarterbacks. So, I think this team definitely has Super Bowl potential. I think, to me, they're in that group of 5 or 6 teams that are legitimate contenders. So this next team may not be a contender, even though a lot of us thought they might be at the beginning of the season. We talking about those downtown Cleveland Browns, who finally got a W against the Buffalo Bills, who are actually pretty good.
I don't think the Bills are that good.
Defensively, at least they are.
Okay.
And they can run the ball a bit. But anyway, they beat the Bills, who are now 5-3, and the Browns improved to 3-6. Does this give you any optimism about the Browns moving forward?
No, I don't think so. I mean, maybe come talk to me after Thursday night when they play the Steelers if they find a way to beat the Steelers. But, I mean, I feel like they're too far gone in that AFC wild card. So, yeah, it doesn't really do anything for me. I mean, Baker Mayfield did have one of his better games of the season.
He did, yeah, against a really solid defense.
Well, and, I think a reason that was they finally started trying to just force the ball to Odell a little bit more, which is what you needed to do from the start.
Absolutely, with a guy like that. And Jarvis got really involved early on.
Yeah, and it's about time you get those receivers involved. And, I mean, Chubb's doing Chubb things. Chubb's been the solid, consistent, solid point through that offense all year. And then you had Kareem Hunt, who had a couple yards. I don't think he had any field goals. I'm not sure, but yeah. I mean,
we all know Duke can kick.
I mean, it's not enough to sell me on anything. I don't think Buffalo's that good. They do have a good defense. I think Josh Allen's a very mediocre quarterback. I think they still have a mediocre offense. So
yeah, I agree. Buffalo, although they're a good defense, isn't a great overall test because they aren't a super complex team to play. Like they've got talent on that defensive side, particularly at corner. But Browns didn't score that many points. Well, they put up 19.
Yeah,
same concerns that I've had with the Browns. They're undisciplined. They're inconsistent. They're poorly coached, and maybe they'll keep using their stars more like they did this last game. They really 4 guys on that team should get the ball.
It's like Freddie Kitchens just decided to scroll through Twitter and see what he needed to do to coach a team. I don't know. I have no idea what happened.
Yep, I don't know either. But anyway, there's not much more to say on the Browns, and honestly, I don't really think that they're worth too much more time in our podcast. Moving on. So Storm already gave you his betting advice for the day, so now it's my turn. I'm going to give you some DFS advice for this weekend's slate. So as usual, these players that I'm using are off the Sunday, Monday main slate, so that includes all games except the Thursday night game. I use FanDuel. If you use DraftKings, the players will probably approximately line up, might be slightly different. And then lastly, these are optimized lineups for 50-50 cash games. So finish in the top half, double up on your money. So let's get to it. At quarterback, and I'm going to start it off with kind of a shocker right here. You ready for this? At quarterback, at $6,700, Jeff Driscoll of the Detroit Lions. Now, I get it. Like, I'm going budget at quarterback this week. He's the 25th price quarterback.
Stafford's definitely not playing then.
Stafford is definitely not playing. He is out. I'm pretty sure it's cracked rib.
Oh, yeah.
So Stafford.
Back,
yeah.
I think.
So, cracked back. I'm sorry. So Stafford is out. Now Driscoll is $2,100 less than Lamar Jackson, and believe it or not, he's $200 less than Mitchell Trubisky. So I'm going with Jeff Driscoll, who I know he plays Dallas this weekend, who are a top 10 pass defense. But he looked all right against Chicago last week, who's right around the same in terms of their passing defensive stats. Put up serviceable numbers, had 18.5 points on FanDuel. I think he had 1 touchdown, 1 interception, about 260 yards. So the Cowboys are probably going to be up in this one, and it's going to force Detroit to play catch-up. And even if they aren't, Detroit does not run the ball at all. Like, I think they pass the ball at the 6th or 7th highest clip in the league. And now without Kerryon Johnson, that's just slowly crept up since that. And he's got great pass catchers around him. He's got Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, T.J. Hawkinson. So I think he could way outperform his price this week. And even an average week at the price point he's at is going to be worth it if you play these players that I got coming next. So let's jump into running back. With that being said, I'm going with Zeke Elliott as my RB1. Now, 3rd price running back this week, so a little expensive. And I know some people are off-put because of the stinker he put on against Minnesota. But he gets Detroit this week, who is by far the worst defense against fantasy running backs this year. And even though last week was a stinker, that was the only week this whole season that Zeke has put up single-digit numbers. Every week before that, he's been at 10 or above in FanDuel scoring. So, honestly, with the matchup and Zeke's ability, I think you can book him for at least 100 yards on the ground, a touchdown, and then add on a couple more receptions. Obviously, in PPR, that's useful. Running back 2, I'm going with Josh Jacobs, who's just a smidge cheaper at $8,000. Now, I get it. I'm splurging on running backs, but I really couldn't resist with these two and the matchups that they have. So Jacobs gets the Bengals defense, who are just the tiniest bit worse than Detroit against fantasy running backs, allowing 5.2 yards per carry, which is the worst in the league. Raiders have been leaning heavily on Jacobs, who does not have fewer than 17 touches in any game since week 3. So clearly he's the workhorse there, and it's working for him. They're 5-4, so I don't see any reason why they're going to back off. So in those weeks that he has had 17 touches, he has scored single digits only once. So basically you can book Josh Jacobs for double digits, and against this defense, honestly, the floor is so much high. So the Raiders have been rolling, and I expect Josh Jacobs to roll over this really pathetic Bengals defensive unit. Let's move on to wide receivers. At wide receiver 1, I'm still going to continue to throw that cash. I'm going with Michael Thomas, $9,000. And Michael Thomas, what can I say? He's the most consistent player other than Christian McCaffrey in fantasy football. Highest price this week in FanDuel by $700, but hell, saved at quarterbacks. Got to treat yourself a little bit, am I right?
Treat yourself.
So this dude's a baller. Even last week when the team only scored 9 points, 13 catches on 14 targets, 152 yards, and over 21 points on FanDuel when they only scored 9 points. Ridiculous. He's scored in double digits every week this year and has had fewer than 11 targets only twice. Gets a Bucs defense this year that we all know is by far the worst defense against fantasy wide receivers by an average of 2.5 points a game, which doesn't seem like a lot.
And just cut a starting corner this week.
Yeah, so really, can you ask for a better matchup? Like the Bucs couldn't stop Christian Kirk last week, who went off on him for 3 touchdowns. What the hell you think Michael Thomas is going to do? And you know this Saints team is pissed after only putting up 9 points in Atlanta. Go with Michael Thomas and don't look back. Now, I got to reel it back in a little bit now. Got to check to see what's in the wallet, make sure I don't overspend. I'm going with Jamison Crowder as my wide receiver 2 this week. So, like I said, coming back down to earth here. The Redskins are middle of the pack against wide receivers, but Crowder seems to be heating up these past 2 weeks. He has over 80 yards and a touchdown in both of his past 2 games. And also, you can't forget the fact that he's playing against his old team. So, dude is coming ready to play this week. So, I like Crowder in PPR formats because Darnold seems to look to him more than any other receiver. And obviously, his touchdown upside, I like Jamison Crowder at $6,500 this week. Wide receiver 3, and I will continue to hammer this guy until FanDuel figures out the scoring or the pricing. Excuse me. Going with DJ Moore again for the 3rd straight week at $6,000, and the past 2 weeks, dude has delivered. Like Curtis Samuel's still priced higher at $6,300, and I get that he had the touchdown for Carolina last week again for the 2nd straight week. But you look at the rest of the stats. Moore still outscored him, reeled in 9 of 11 targets for 120 yards. Samuel, 4 for 8 for 35 yards in that touchdown. Man, if DJ Moore can just get into the freaking end zone, he's a low-end wide receiver 1 at worst. Like, he's just getting so much volume in this offense. As a wide receiver, really, it's just him and Samuel. So both of them are good plays, but I like DJ Moore for the price. He's had no fewer than 8 targets the past 5 weeks. Can't go wrong with that floor. Roll with DJ Moore, guys. At tight end, I'm going with Travis Kelce at $6,700. And I usually try and save at tight end, but I can't remember the last time Travis Kelce wasn't a top 3 price tight end. Like, there's been some touchdown regression this year, so people are like, oh, why isn't he scoring 25, 30 points a game? But he's still tight end number 2 on the season. And the number 1 tight end, Austin Hooper, looks like he might miss a couple of games. So he's also the most consistent play at the position. Like, he consistently is getting 7-8 targets a game. And now with Mahomes back under center, that floor is super high. Like, I know that they play the Chargers this week, who aren't terrible against tight ends, so it's not an ideal matchup, but Kelce's not an ideal matchup against defenses. Give me Travis Kelce at $6,700. At my flex this week, going with Calvin Ridley at $5,500. So I mentioned how Austin Hooper was injured. So is Devontae Freeman. So it looks like 2 primary pass catchers for the Falcons are going to be out. That bumps Calvin Ridley up to the number 2 pass catcher on a high-octane, pass-first offense. For $5,500, yes, please, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. He's also got big play upside. He's averaging 13 air yards per game, and as we've seen in certain games this year, he's got burner speed. So the Falcons get the Panthers this week, who surprisingly are bottom 10 against wide receivers in fantasy this year, so that definitely helps the cause. Calvin Ridley at the flex. And then lastly, I'm going with your Philadelphia Eagles on defense this week, and really, it's mostly about the pricing, but hear me out. So to get all this stuff, I had to get a budget defense. There's only 2 defenses cheaper than the Eagles this week, and that is the Chargers against Kansas City and the Bengals against Oakland. And honestly, I don't quite get it. Like, I get it. The Patriots rank amongst the league's best offenses in points scored, but against the 2 toughest opponents, they've only had 1 offensive touchdown and 2 offensive touchdowns, respectively. So they won those games because of their defenses, and really they've been putting up points on the Miamis and the New York Jets of the league. Also, that Patriots O-line has not looked great, and I know the Eagles aren't elite pass rushers this year, but they have had 10 sacks in their past 3 games, so it seems like they're heating up there. And as we mentioned earlier on the show, Eagles secondary, still not good, but they are getting healthy. And those Patriots wide receivers still don't scare me. So you may not get a ton of interceptions, but you might get a couple sacks. Who knows? Sony Michel isn't great with the ball, might get a fumble. And I don't think the Pats are going to put up 30 points on them. I don't. So I like the Eagles defense there. So to quick recap, at quarterback, I'm going with the baller Jeff Driscoll for the Detroit Lions. Running back 1, I'm rolling with Zeke Elliott. Running back 2, Josh Jacobs. Wide receivers going with Michael Thomas, Jamison Crowder, DJ Moore. Tight end, Travis Kelce. My flex, Calvin Ridley. And my defense, Fly Eagles Fly, Philadelphia Eagles. How you like that, Mapples?
I like that defensive pick. I'm not going to lie.
I thought you might, buddy. I thought you might.
I thought you were going to throw, I don't know, like Nelson Aguilar in there or something. Now I was going to start questioning you, but okay.
No.
You're good.
I didn't need to work that much on a budget, man.
Yeah, it's probably the cheapest option.
I did think about it. Actually, Calvin Ridley's not that much more expensive than Aguilar this year, which blows my mind. Anyway, so kind of speaking of the Eagles, that's kind of a perfect transition to lead us into our last segment of the show, which we always like to end on. talking about our NFL games of the week this week. And I don't love a ton of the slate, but there are a few really interesting games. The most interesting one to us when we were prepping the show is when New England travels to Philly this week. So, Storm, what do you predict is going to happen during that matchup?
Yeah, if people recall the last time these two teams had played coming off a bye week, the Eagles won 41-33. Just letting people know that's what happened the last time these two played coming off a bye. They're both obviously coming off a bye this time. For Philadelphia, for me, it's run the ball. That's what Baltimore did. That's what Cleveland did the week before. That's what they're starting to show a little more with Jordan Howard, Miles Sanders, those big boys up front. Brandon Brooks just got his money. Best guard in the league right now, maybe one of the best linemen in the league right now. He definitely earned it. 10 months off Achilles surgery right now. Yeah, just let them boys earn it. Run the ball, throw a little bit. Alshon's day-to-day right now, so Jordan Matthews might be your number one receiver, which is very scary.
That's really scary. He's been cut by the team twice.
Well, all right, so his number one receiver, let's put it that way. He still has Zach Ertz and Dallas
Yeah,
Goedert.
those are the top two targets.
Yeah. So, and then for me, when you look at New England, it's like, is this offense going to really get rolling? Because don't get me wrong, the Eagles' secondary has been poor, as you said, but Jalen Mills is healthy. Ronald Darby's healthy. They're usually, at that point, it's a bend, don't break for them. And that D-line is starting to get better. They're starting to pick it up. Timmy Jernigan's healthy now as well. Brandon Graham's having one of his better seasons of his career. So, yeah, I mean, New England somehow goes to Philly as a 3.5-point favorite. I don't know. I really think Philadelphia does have a chance to beat them. I really, really do. But something tells me that New England comes in and wins.
Yeah, I lean towards New England here, but I'm with you. Philly has a shot. Like you said, they've been showing now that they're a running football team. Jordan Howard has looked good running behind that offensive line, and you still have Miles Sanders for a change of pace. Their lack of weapons at wide receivers does concern me. But thankfully, that just means that McCourty and Gilmore are going to be covering Jordan Matthews and who's Mac Hollins.
Yeah, maybe Nelson.
That's going to be a waste of elite quarterback. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if you see Stephon Gilmore shadow Zach Ertz.
Yeah, he'll probably definitely. I agree. I mean, that's what some defenses have been shown lately because there's no faith in the wide receivers, and I don't blame them.
None at all. But yeah, Philly's defense, though, I think they match up well with that New England offense because, like I just mentioned, Philly's weakness is their DBs, but New England's weakness is their offense. Just control Edelman.
Yeah.
If Philip Dorsett and N'Keal Harry and Hunter Olszewski or whatever his name is, something Olszewski is going to beat you, so be it. But just lock down Edelman. Have one person shadow him and have a spy just sitting over the middle in like a mid-zone coverage, whatever the heck, a hook zone or something. Do that. Keep Edelman from running all over you. But I think it's going to be close. Unfortunately, I do give the edge to the New England Patriots because they've shown that although they haven't run the ball great, they have the ability to. They still make stuff happen in the passing game. But
yeah, coming off a bye and a loss to Baltimore.
Say, if Philly can step it up the way that Seattle did against San Francisco and really get in Tom Brady's face, that to me is going to be the difference. Because Tom Brady clearly isn't super mobile at this point in his career, nor has he ever been.
Yeah, I was going to say, when has he ever been?
So, going to be a hell of a game nonetheless. Maybe we'll see a Philly special again. You never know.
Maybe. Who knows?
You never know. All right, game number 2, and we'll be quick with these last two because we're running a little short on time. Houston and Baltimore. Storm, who you got and why?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. 2 MVP candidates going at it right now, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson. I'm giving the slight edge to Baltimore right now just because they have the better defense.
Give me Houston. Give me Houston. I like Baltimore as a team more, but Deshaun Watson is going to step up, look at the other sideline, and see Lamar Jackson go, bitch, I'm better than you. Which he is. And I have concerns about Houston on the defensive side. Don't get me wrong, but I do think they'll be good enough. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, and I'm picking Deshaun Watson to come out with the W, man.
Baltimore's a 4.5-point favorite.
Yeah. Might have to throw a couple bucks on the money line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care where it's at. Deshaun Watson travels well.
Just letting you know. Next game.
Next game. We kind of touched on this with our Nick Foles talk, but the Jacksonville Jaguars travel to Indianapolis, take on the Colts. What do you think is going to happen in this one?
Yeah, I think Indy's going to wind up winning. I think that defense is going to be too much. It looks like Jacoby Brissett's actually going to play. It's not going to be Brian Hoyer, who's awful last week.
Yes,
coming off that loss to Dolphins, this is a must-win for them to keep their playoff hopes alive. Nick Foles coming a little rusty. Yeah, I'm giving the edge to Colts here.
Yeah, I agree with you that Indianapolis defense, I think, is the difference. They're going to be able to stop Leonard Fournette. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, although they're decent on defense, they've shown that they're kind of vulnerable. No more Jalen Ramsey. Although I don't know if Brissett's going to have T.Y. Hilton back this week. And then Paris Campbell is also injured. So I think his top wide receivers are Zach Pascal and
Eric Ebron.
He's got Jack Doyle at tight end, and Chester Rogers is the other one.
Yeah.
But no, I do still see Indianapolis winning this game. I agree with you. They have to win this to stay in the playoff hunt. I think Frank Reich comes up with a game plan that specifically attacks Jacksonville's weaknesses. They come away with the W. All right. Well, that about wraps it up. Anyway, be sure to follow us.
The floor.
I thought it would look cool on video, man. Come on. Anyway, be sure to follow us on social media. Again, on Facebook, that's the Practice Squad Podcast, and on Twitter, it's at TPS Pod. Make sure you're following us, subscribe, comment on our stuff. We'd love to hear from you, know what kind of questions you want to have us answer. But yeah, this was a fun week. Talked a lot of NFL. Can't wait for next week.
Let's do it again.
Let's
See you
do
on
it.
Wednesday.
We'll see you next Wednesday or whenever the hell you decide to watch us. Until then, guys, peace out.